بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. حياكم الله وإياكم، أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا. Hope everyone's doing good, inshallah. I welcome all of you to today's lesson, our 9th lecture in this Arabic conversational course. And today, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to continue with the units, having done the midterm exam, alhamdulillah, recently, having completed unit 1 to 4 and spent almost 2 weeks on revising it and perfecting it before doing the midterm exam. And even though I have gone through all of the tests, those that have been submitted so far, there are a few students, some of them due to sickness, some of them due to other things, that haven't been able yet to submit the midterm exam. So for that reason, I think it's best to postpone talking about it and explaining the answers and everything for next lecture, inshallah ta'ala, when everybody else can be done. But generally speaking, if you look at how everyone has done, then Allahumma barik, the results were amazing. And alhamdulillah, it shows that the revision sessions that we did were a great success. So this is a breakdown of the questions. Not sure if you can see it, but as you can see, when it comes to vocabulary, we have something like 94 to 99% correct of students had their answers correct. Out of all of these 3 sections, as you can see, most of you struggled a bit in the second grammar question. The first question, everyone generally speaking did good, which was fill in the blank. But the second question, which asked you to correct mistakes, grammatical mistakes in the text, then they were looking at 56%, which is not that great. Okay? And when it comes to the writing, the picture prompt where everybody had to write their own sentence, mashallah, was very good. As you can see, even one of the questions 100% and the other one 99%, yani mashallah, all of you put together some nice sentences. There were some spelling mistakes here and there that I overlooked, but generally speaking, the sentences you put together were grammatically correct. There's one particular word that most of you got wrong when it comes to spelling. One word, musalla. A lot of different mistakes. We'll talk about that next time, inshallah. But for the rest, mashallah, that's a breakdown of the questions. When it comes to the students, these are the grades. There's a distribution of the grades, as you can see, and this is really, really, really good. Out of 23 marks, the median score was 21.25, which is like an A grade. That's the median score. There's one student that had full mark, and 3 of you had 22 out of 23. And the lowest mark was 16, which is still a pass. So, mashallah, generally speaking, I was very, very pleased with the exam results. Allahumma barik. And to be honest, I didn't really hold back when it comes to writing these questions. As you know, the other exams that we normally do are from the book, but this particular midterm exam, I authored it myself. And there were a few banana peels, if you like, that some of you there were a few places that were very I really put those questions in place to differentiate between the really students that really have revised and really understand, and those that done good but haven't reached that level. So whenever you make an exam, you have to make sure that you challenge the best students and you don't alienate the ones that are weaker. So alhamdulillah, in terms of distribution, I'm very happy with this. And alhamdulillah, since one student got full mark, that means the questions were answerable, alhamdulillah. So that student has proved that I haven't put something out there that none of you can answer, alhamdulillah. طيب, more details to follow, inshallah. I've got a very detailed breakdown of all of your inputs, the mistakes, why you made those mistakes. And, to be honest, I call mistakes learning opportunities. Okay? There's no such thing called mistake when it comes to learning a language or even learning generally speaking. A student, when he makes a mistake, it's a learning opportunity. That's what it is. It's a learning opportunity for himself and a learning opportunity for everybody else, specifically when we do it this way, whereby we present all of the wrong answers, yes, which facilitate this learning opportunity. So when I present all of the wrong answers to everyone, instead of writing down comments for every student privately, obviously I've marked all of the questions right or wrong. Any spelling mistakes, I've pointed them out, but I haven't written why it's wrong. That's what I will explain in the lesson, inshallah, because there's no point writing that separately for each student when I can explain it to everyone and everyone gets to benefit from those learning opportunities. Okay? Right. Did anyone have any question about the exam not related to any specific question? One thing though that was a big problem, and I repeat it, and I hopefully for next time you all keep it in mind, when it comes to the writing questions where you put down your answers, you type your answers, please don't write harakat. That makes life so much more difficult for me, because then I have to check every answer separately, whereby if you don't write the harakat, then I preload the right question, and if it's correct, then it's graded automatically. So do not write the harakat. I remember I pointed that out in the channel, but still a lot of you went out of your way to write the harakat. I want you to write harakat when it comes to spelling, for example, if I'm specifically assessing you on i'rab or grammar, what I want to know if you can differentiate between the maf'ulun bihi and the fa'il and the jar and majroor and what have you. Once we get there, I will write in the instructions, write a fully vowelized word, or write all of the harakat. But as a rule of thumb, whenever you type an answer, may it be in an exam, in a test, in a quiz, or even on WooClap as we're going to do today, don't write harakat. Please do not write harakat. Okay? Of course, there's a lot of spelling mistakes as well that we have to address, ta marbota and these sort of things. We talked about it last time, but still that needs some work. We'll come to that inshallah next time. Going on to today's unit, I don't think there are any questions. Week 6, alhamdulillah, welcome to this unit, which is Unit 5. Unit 5, which goes by the theme of food and drink. Food and drink. Something very beloved to all of us, isn't it? Our life depends on it. It's truly something that we can't go by on a daily basis. So it makes sense that if you want to learn a new language, you learn about these two topics. So what are we going to learn about this week? I'll go over it very, very quickly. Obviously in accordance with the book. Then the theme obviously is, like we said, food and drink. At-ta'amu wa-sharab, it's called. And you will be learning about how to inquire about meals, their contents and weight. Likewise, how to order food and drink, and how to express one's hunger. Okay, so that's what the authors have put here in the book, which they hope to be the learning objectives for this particular unit. In terms of vocabulary, we've got 35 new words we're going to learn from the core vocabulary, which revolve around food, drink, weight, and so on and so forth. When it comes to supplementary vocab, then we're going to continue with learning ordinal numbers, i.e. the numbers in order that denote sequence, but this time we're going to do the feminine kind. Okay, so we have awwal. Okay, so if you say, for example, هذا هو الطالب الأول, this is the first student, how would you say that for طالبة, the feminine? Would you also say هذه هي الطالبة الأول? لا, you say هذه هي الطالبة الأولى. So we'll talk about that inshallah. In terms of themed vocabulary, which is at the back of the book and it has its own folder inside Quizlet, then I would advise you to navigate to theme 5, which is about food, theme 7, which is about fruits, and theme 8, which is about vegetables. So these three themes are related to this week's unit. Okay, food, fruits, and vegetables. So whenever you do finish the core vocabulary and the supplementary vocabulary, then make sure you practice the themed vocabulary inshallah. In terms of grammar, then we'll be learning how to answer in the affirmative or negative with na'am or la. Likewise, we'll talk about the prohibition with la, also known as the negative imperative. La nahiya, it's called in Arabic, and he has his own specific rulings in grammar, and also about ta'ajjub, or how to do ta'ajjub, which is basically there are certain phrases in the Arabic language that denote amazement. Okay, this particular one they've mentioned here in the book today, it's not really grammatically a ta'ajjub phrase, but that's how the authors have put it, and we'll get to it inshallah when the time is right. Projected learning outcomes, learn 36, core vocabulary inshallah for vocab. When it comes to grammar, we already talked about it, answering the affirmative or negative, using the present tense verbs, and how to prohibit an action, or how to prohibit someone from an action using la. When it comes to comprehension, we'll talk about, or you'll develop your ability to comprehend written and spoken Arabic in your day-to-day interactions with speakers of the language when ordering food and drink and inquiring about meals. When it comes to pronunciation, then this week we will learn the two sounds, qaf and kaf. Qaf and kaf. Okay, qaf from the soft palate and kaf from the hard palate. How to differentiate between the two, which I think is not that difficult for an English speaker. Even though qaf is alien to the English language, it's not as difficult as the ha and ha, or the ayn and hamza and the likes. When it comes to speaking skills, you'll initiate conversations in Arabic with confidence by expressing your hunger and ordering food and drink while stating your preferences. Writing skills, there is no writing yet at this stage. There is writing exercise at the back of the book, but those are more about handwriting and not about writing in terms of expression. Okay? طيب. That's a quick overview. So somebody asked, where are the themed and supplemental vocabulary words listed? Okay, so I'll show you. I assumed all of you would have known by now. I think I've pointed this out in the first lesson we had. If you go to Quizlet, and you're obviously going to be in this class, the Arabic Conversational class, you will find these three folders. First one is called Core Vocabulary, Themed Vocabulary, Supplementary Vocabulary. Okay, so the themed vocabulary is 15 sets in total. Okay, these are all taken from the back of the book, and the supplementary vocab is altogether 8 sets. Each 2 units have their own set, so unit 1 and 2, unit 3 and 4, and so on and so forth. I grouped them together per 2 units because the supplementary vocab is normally not that much. Okay, so again, you'll find them in Quizlet. If you're talking about in terms of practice, if you want to know where they are in the book, then they are in the book. Themed vocab is at the end of the book, the second book, because book 1 and 2 is considered to be one level, and the supplementary vocabulary always comes after the dialogues. Okay, I hope that's clear. So let's dive right in, inshallah. First we're going to do obviously is the dialogues, inshallah ta'ala. Listen to them, make sure we cover the vocab and any grammar concepts within them, inshallah. The pre-unit assignments, I'm sorry I did post them a bit late. Please forgive me for that. I was too busy with marking the exams, I just completely forgot about it. But yeah, make sure, again, like always, you practice your reading until you get fluent. Like I said many times before, and I keep on repeating it, my dear brothers and sisters, you will not be able to speak Arabic fluently until you can read it fluently. So if you have a sentence in the Arabic language written in front of you in a book, and you struggle to read that sentence fluently and your tongue gets stuck, do not expect to speak fluently from the top of your head. It's not going to happen. Okay, so the first thing you need to develop is your reading fluency. Go through that book. Look, I'm not telling you to memorize, even though our teachers used to force us to memorize these dialogues. Don't memorize it, but at least you have to listen to the dialogue multiple times, read after it until you can read the dialogue from the book fluently. Okay? Then that means your tongue got used to those sounds. Your tongue got used to those words. Then all you need to do is recall the vocabulary within a conversation and you can speak it. Most of you struggle when it comes to the workshops or when it comes to speaking Arabic because you struggle to pronounce the word. And that's a problem. Okay? So please, that's the easiest barrier that you can get out of the way. Get fluency. Okay? So please, I keep on repeating it. Do not forget. This is, I think, a responsibility that a lot of you forget. Mainly because there is no specific assignment for it, which perhaps something I might consider in the future, right? Making it mandatory that every student records himself reading the dialogue, okay? I'll think about, then I'll take your opinions on that. But that's how important I see it. Please, okay? Then you have the comprehension assessment, whereby you listen to the vocab and you answer the questions. All of that obviously is on Google Classroom. And then you have the vocabulary practice as well. The vocab is one of those things as well. Reading fluency, vocab. Those are one of those things that you don't really need a teacher, right? There's nothing to hold you back. Just practice your fluency, even if you're ahead of us. You go on to doing units 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, no problem. Vocab, memorize vocab as much as you like, ahead of time, ahead of the unit, no problem. Okay? These sort of things, there should be no barriers. You shouldn't be waiting for the teacher to tell you to learn a group of vocab or a group of words, or a teacher to instruct you to get fluent when it comes to reading it. These sort of things you should do by yourself. That's why these are pre-unit assignments. I expect you to have done that before class. Because when you do that before class, that's when I can come and I can help you with the things you need help with. Okay? If, however, you don't do that before class, and I try to help you what you need help with, but you still haven't done what you should have done, then you will not make the most of my help and my instruction and the practice opportunities you get in the workshop if you're not ready for it. Okay? And that's an opportunity that you have lost then. Is that clear, everyone? طيب. Live class 9. Bismillah. Let's go for it. Okay, here we go. I have to tell you some funny dialogues.
الوحدة الخامسة. الطعام والشراب. الدرس 37. الحوار الأول. انظر واستمع.
أين تذهب يا سالم؟ إلى المطعم.
كم وجبة تأكل في اليوم؟
آكل 3 وجبات. الفطور والغداء والعشاء.
هذا كثير جدا. أنا آكل وجبة واحدة.
هذا قليل جدا.
ماذا تأكل في الغداء؟
آكل اللحم والدجاج والأرز والخبز. وماذا تأكل أنت؟
آكل السمك والسلطة والفاكهة.
ما وزنك؟
60 كيلا.
وما وزنك أنت؟
100 كيل.
أنت سمين جدا.
وأنت نحيف جدا.
والآن جاء دورك. انظر واستمع وأعد.
Okay, so now it's your turn. Listen,
أين
repeat.
تذهب يا سالم؟
أين تذهب يا سالم? Where are you going, Salim?
إلى المطعم.
إلى المطعم. To the restaurant.
كم وجبة تأكل في اليوم؟
كم وجبة تأكل في اليوم? How many meals do you eat in the day?
آكل 3 وجبات. الفطور والغداء والعشاء.
I eat 3 meals. آكل 3 وجبات. الفطور والغداء والعشاء. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
هذا كثير جدا.
هذا كثير جدا. That's a lot.
أنا آكل وجبة واحدة.
I only eat 1 meal.
هذا قليل جدا.
That's very little. هذا قليل جدا. يعني it's relative.
ماذا تأكل في الغداء؟
ماذا تأكل في الغداء? What do you eat for dinner? or for lunch, should I say.
آكل اللحم والدجاج والأرز والخبز.
I eat آكل اللحم meat
وماذا
والدجاج
تأكل
chicken
أنت؟
والأرز and rice والخبز and bread. وماذا تأكل أنت and what do you eat?
آكل السمك والسلطة والفاكهة.
آكل السمك I eat fish والسلطة salad والفاكهة and fruits.
ما وزنك؟
ما وزنك? What's your weight? Quite rude, huh?
60 كيلا.
60 kilos.
وما وزنك أنت؟
وما وزنك أنت and what's your weight?
100 كيل.
100 kilos.
أنت سمين جدا.
أنت سمين جدا. You're very fat. Yes.
وأنت نحيف جدا.
Unapologetic. وأنت نحيف جدا and you are very skinny. طيب. That's with regards to the dialogue. Before we go to the next dialogue, first let me share the WooClap link with everyone. Please join us in WooClap. طيب. First thing we're going to do on WooClap inshallah is I want all of you to click on any word you don't 100% understand so that I can explain that word. I think when it comes to food, the pictures are self-explanatory for the most part. Okay? But if there are any words you don't understand, let me know. We have فاكهة. We'll listen to them now anyway. We're going to listen to them to the man pronouncing it.
الوحدة الخامسة.
And you click on
الطعام
anything.
والشرب.
Click on anything that you don't understand, inshallah. Okay? Might as well stay here actually. Go ahead. Okay.
شراب. الدرس 37. المفردات. العرض. انظر واستمع وأعد. فاكهة. أرز. سمك.
I'm not giving you the meanings. I want you to think about it.
خبز.
And just click if you can't figure it out.
يأكل. مطعم. عشاء. غداء. فطور. وجبات. وجبة. وزن. قليل. كثير. 100 كيل. سمين. نحيف.
طيب. Someone said the picture is so small. Do you mean on a phone? I didn't try it actually. Is it small on the phone يعني? Let me check it out quickly. لماذا 60 كيل و100 كيل؟ ما فهمت يا أخي. Yeah, the picture seems to be quite small, but you can zoom in. You can zoom in, inshallah. And also you can place more than one. Or you can only place one, is it? Okay, let me fix that. طيب, we have aruz. Aruz means rice. 100 كيل or كيل means 100 kilos. يأكل means he's eating. يأكل means he's eating. Okay. واضح? Any other questions? I think I had those 3 questions. Okay. Those 3 words that were not clear. Okay. Going on to the grammar side of things. The text spelled kilo differently for 60 and 100. Okay, let's have a look at it, inshallah. Qasim says أين تذهب يا سالم? We know that. Salim answers إلى المطعم. Obviously we learn from this, generally speaking, is something that's obvious, which is, it's true that so far whenever a question is asked in the text, a full-blown answer is given by repeating what's in the question. But linguistically speaking, any language, you don't need to repeat what the question was. So أين تذهب يا سالم? You don't have to say أذهب إلى المطعم. Okay, so that's one thing we learn here. You can just say إلى المطعم. أذهب is understood based on the question. Okay, that's one thing. كم وجبة? Remember, any word that comes after كم has 2 فتحة. وجبة. Okay, كم وجبة تأكل في اليوم؟ آكل 3 وجبات. I eat 3 meals. 3 وجبات. Now the whole topic on numbers in the Arabic language can get quite complicated. Okay, but from the numbers 3 to 9, it's مضاف إليه. Okay, 3 or 3 وجبات, 4 وجبات, and so on and so forth. Okay, there's also the topic of agreement or disagreement, if you like, between masculine and feminine, but we'll talk about that another time. The topic for numbers we'll talk about another time, but numbers in the Arabic language have their own separate chapter that needs to be addressed when it comes to grammar. Same thing here. آكل وجبة واحدة. He didn't say آكل واحدة وجبة. Okay, so I said from 3 to 9. When it comes to 1, you say وجبة and then واحدة. It's a صفة and موصوف, adjective. واحدة would be an adjective for وجبة. Okay. 2 is obviously dual. We add alif lam and ya and noon. We haven't done that yet. وجبتان and وجبتين, depending on the Arab. And 3 to 9 is, we said, مضاف إليه. 3 وجبات, 4 وجبات, and so on and so forth. Okay, so don't get confused by that. آكل وجبة واحدة. Don't say آكل واحدة وجبة. لا, وجبة واحدة. Those are the only things that really were new grammar concepts that I had to point out. For the rest, everything else you know. هذا قليل جدا. جدا means very. If you haven't seen this word before, I think we've seen it. If not, جدا means very. ماذا تأكل في الغداء؟ ماذا تأكل? We've done all of this. آكل اللحم والدجاج. We've done all of this. Okay? واضح؟ طيب, why is it 60 كيلا and 100 كيل? Again, to do with numbers. 100 and 1000, yes, are مضاف إليه. Okay? Whereas the numbers which are عقود are called عقود, the tens. Okay? 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Those numbers, then the word after it has a fatha. Just like كم وجبة. Okay? Is what we mentioned last time, called تمييز. We'll talk about that another time. Okay? So 60 كيلا. Okay? 50 كيلا. Okay? 100 كيل. Okay? Again, like I said, numbers in the Arabic language can get a little bit complicated, but I don't think it's something you need to worry about now. As long as you know it means 60 kilos is fine, 100 kilos is fine. We'll get there inshallah. Okay? Any other questions before we go into the next dialogue? Okay, I hope the kaylan and the kaylin is clear. Okay? Like I said, it has to do with numbers. It's a complicated topic. I mean, it's not complicated, it's just that there are so many numbers, so many different rulings. It needs some explaining. But I don't think it's that important when it comes to your comprehension. And when it comes to speaking, inshallah, you'll get used to it. طيب. Going on to the next dialogue. طبعا you have these vocabulary practice and the comprehension practice questions. You can do that in Google Classroom. Okay?
الوحدة الخامسة. الطعام والشراب. الدرس 38.
الحوار الثاني. انظر واستمع.
ماذا تطلبين من الطعام؟
بعض السمك والأرز من فضلك.
وماذا تطلبين من الشراب؟
ماء من فضلك.
وماذا تفضلين من الفاكهة؟
التمر أو العنب.
هل تشربين الشاي؟ لا، أفضل القهوة. القهوة بالحليب؟ نعم، القهوة بالحليب. هل تريدين شيئا آخر؟ لا، وشكرا. عفوا.
والآن جاء دورك.
Now it's your turn.
انظر واستمع وأعد.
Repeat after.
ماذا تطلبين من الطعام؟
ماذا تطلبين من الطعام? What do you want to order?
بعض السمك والأرز من فضلك.
Some fish and rice.
وماذا تطلبين من الشراب؟
وماذا تطلبين من الشراب? What do you want to order for drinks?
ماء من فضلك.
Water. Please. من فضلك. Please.
وماذا تفضلين من الفاكهة؟
وماذا تفضلين من الفاكهة? What do you prefer when it comes to fruits?
التمر أو العنب.
Dates or grapes, please.
هل تشربين الشاي؟
Do you drink tea?
لا، أفضل القهوة.
لا. No. أفضل. I prefer قهوة.
القهوة بالحليب؟
Coffee with milk?
نعم، القهوة بالحليب.
Yes. Coffee with milk.
هل تريدين شيئا آخر؟
Do you want something else? Anything else?
لا، وشكرا.
No and thank you.
عفوا.
Afwan means you're welcome. Not the afwan which is sorry. Okay? Afwan also means sorry obviously, but afwan in this context it means you're welcome. طيب. The next one, same as last time. Here we have the words. We listen to them again, and you need to just put a marker on the word that you don't understand so that I can explain it.
الوحدة الخامسة. الطعام والشراب. الدرس 38.
المفردات. العرض. انظر واستمع وأعد. ماء.
ماء.
قهوة.
Read after that. Whenever he says the word, you should say it too.
شاي. حليب.
حليب.
شراب.
شراب.
تمر.
تمر.
عنب.
عنب.
طعام.
طعام.
يطلب.
يطلب.
يشرب.
يشرب. طيب, let's see which words need explaining. Or next time I might just translate it along when he reads it. So طعام means food, is the name, the topic of today's lesson. الطعام والشراب. طعام means food. يطلب means to order. Okay, يطلب he orders. تطلب you order. تطلبين you order for female. Okay. طيب. When it comes to grammar, Then we have المضيفة. So we have two people here. We have المضيفة and المسافرة. المضيفة means host. مضيف means host. المضيف means hostess. Okay? I think add hostess in this context. ماذا تطلبين? تطلبين. I think we've done that already, which is the ya and noon that we add for the second person female. Okay, so when you're addressing a man, you say ماذا تطلب. When you're addressing a female, you say ماذا تطلبين. Okay, we've been practicing that in the workshop the whole of last week. من الطعام. So من الطعام, literally speaking, would translate to from food. Okay, i.e. from the category of food. In other words, what food do you want to order? What do you want to order from food? بعض السمك. بعض. We've done بعض before when we talk about بعض الأثاث. Some furniture. بعض means some. And it's always مضاف مضاف إليه. Okay, it also always makes that تركيب of مضاف and مضاف إليه. It goes together with another word. It can't exist by itself. Okay, unless it's like البعض. Okay, or بعضا, and so on and so forth. But بعض, like that, then it comes with بعض السمك, بعض الأثاث, and so on and so forth. والأرز من فضلك. من فضلك means please. There's no point translating a word by word. Just memorize it as من فضلك means please. Okay? Literally speaking, it would be من فضلك from your grace. من فضل means grace. من فضلك from your grace. In other words, please. Okay? التمر أو العنب. I'm not sure if we've done this word before. O, which means or. So we have wa means and, o means or. Conjunctions. هل تريدين شيئا آخر. آخر means something else. Not آخر. آخر means last. Okay? So you have to differentiate between the two. يوم الآخر, the last day. آخر with a fatha means something else. شيئا, something. آخر, else. Okay? So I can say, for example, لي بيت آخر. I have another house. Okay? And so on and so forth. عفوا, like we said, means you're welcome in this context. Okay? Any questions before we go to the third dialogue? طيب, I don't think there are any questions. Let's go to the third dialogue. Bismillah. Bismillah. Is this and the same? آخر. I don't really understand. Or أخر. I don't get it. You might have to word that question.
الوحدة الخامسة. الطعام والشراب. الدرس 39. الحوار الثالث. انظر واستمع.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
أنا جوعان جدا.
الغداء على المائدة.
ما هذا؟ سمك ولحم ودجاج وأرز وسلطة وفاكهة. هذا كثير جدا.
لا تأكل. لا تأكل. اجلس.
لماذا؟ أنا جوعان.
لدينا ضيوف.
لدينا ضيوف؟ من؟
والدي ووالدتي وأخي.
أين الضيوف؟
في غرفة الجلوس.
والآن جاء دورك.
Now it's your turn. جاء دورك.
انظر واستمع وأعد.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
أنا جوعان جدا.
I'm very hungry.
الغداء على المائدة.
Dinner's on the table.
ما هذا؟
What is this?
سمك ولحم ودجاج وأرز وسلطة وفاكهة. هذا كثير جدا.
لا تأكل. لا تأكل. اجلس.
Don't eat, sit.
لماذا؟ أنا جوعان.
Why? I'm hungry, he says.
لدينا ضيوف.
We have guests.
لدينا ضيوف. من؟
We have guests? Who?
والدي ووالدتي وأخي.
My mother, father, and brother.
أين الضيوف؟
Where are the guests?
في غرفة الجلوس.
In the living room. This particular one, there's not much space in between the actual when they read it and the time for you to repeat after it, like the first chapter, the way it was. I don't know why, but that seems like a mistake. There should be enough space for you to be able to read. Anyway, I leave this to you, inshallah, to practice in your own time. Like I said, you have to be able to read this fluently if you want to speak it fluently. Type. The vocab, same as before again. We will listen to it and just point out you don't understand. Okay, there we go. Let's listen to it.
الوحدة الخامسة. الطعام والشراب.
الدرس 39. المفردات. العرض. انظر واستمع وأعد. ضيوف.
ضيوف.
جوعان. مائدة. سلطة.
Again, think about the meaning and point if you don't understand.
يجلس. زوجة. زوج. دجاج.
لحم.
Okay. طيب. Someone said, Ustad, I did not see the vocabulary flashcard in classroom for Unit 5. You mean the flashcards. I'm not sure if I posted them. I'll double check, but if I have, it's going to be in the learning resources classroom. Remember, we split the two classrooms. One for learning resources that are not mandatory, that you can just use for your own benefit. And the main classroom where every assignment is now mandatory, because before it was both mixed and it was a big confusion. Now it's not the case anymore. So if I have posted it, it should be there. If it's not there, inshallah it'll be there by tonight. And also, those particular flashcards, I was going to combine them. So at the moment you have separate flashcards for each dialogue. I think it's better to combine all of them into one widget so you can go through all of them and then re-practice those that you got wrong. So I'm going to combine all of them inshallah into one widget, all of the dialogues inshallah. Let me know what you think about that. Type. Let's check the vocab out. Ma'ida. Okay, so Ma'ida means table, specifically a table full of food. Okay, dinner table if you like. Okay. Just like it came in Surah Al-Ma'idah, table spread, where Isa alayhi salam asked Allah, "Anzil alayna ma'idatan min as-sama." Oh Allah, sent to us a table full of food from the sky. Okay, and you all know that story. Duyuf is the plural of daif. Daif meaning guest. من كان يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر فليكرم ضيفه. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever believes in Allah and the last day, then let him honor his guest. Daif. Plural of daif is duyuf. Plural of daif is duyuf. طيب. The grammar concepts, new grammar concepts that we learned from this particular dialogue, without going too much detail, we'll cover more grammar in a moment. ما هذا, obviously this is what this book calls تعجب, which is out of amazement. What is this? So obviously you have ما هذا. Sometimes you say ما هذا, what is this, as a question. You pose it as a question. And sometimes you say what is this, out of amazement and what have you. So that's the ما هذا over here. Same thing, يعني just the way you use it in English, they also use it in Arabic. لا تأكل. This is something that we have to study now. We have to learn about this. لا تأكل, do not eat. We'll come to that in a moment. Okay? اجلس, sit down. اجلس, sit down. This is, if you like, فعل أمر, or the third type of verbs that we haven't covered yet. And I don't think this is something we should cover in this unit. We'll cover this later when the book actually wants to teach it. Okay? Some of the grammar concepts, they come about in the dialogues just for the sake of the dialogue. Okay? It's not really, the book doesn't really want to teach you that grammar concept. So ijlis is not something the book wants to teach you, so I won't go there. And we'll wait until we reach a dialogue that's specifically there to teach you about the imperative, or if you like, the fi'l amr. Okay? لماذا, another interrogative word that you can add to the long list of interrogative words. This one means why. لماذا means why. So we've done what, we've done where, we've done everything so far. A lot of interrogative words, you can add this to the long list. لماذا, which means why. طيب. Now let's talk a bit more about the actual grammar concepts that we have, and then we'll do a Quizlet competition for vocabulary. We'll leave this one for later. Let's do the grammar first, and then we'll do the Quizlet, inshallah. Now when it comes to interrogative words, I already mentioned لماذا is a new one. There's not much to be said about that. Okay, just remember it. When it comes to ordinal and cardinal numbers, then to recap, ordinal numbers or cardinal numbers are for quantity, ordinal numbers are for sequence. And today in the supplementary vocab, you will learn about the female or the feminine form of the ordinal numbers. So let me quickly show you them in the book. So after the dialogues are up, it's going to show you. There we go. مفردات إضافية, these are the supplementary vocab. So we have here 5 horses, if you like, or horse race. Okay, so الأولى is the first. الأولى. الثانية is second. Okay, so these are for feminine. So for example, you would say هذه هي الطالبة الأولى, وهذه هي المسابقة الثانية, for example. Okay, or سيارة, it could be an object as well, feminine object. هذه هي السيارة الثالثة. Okay, so الثالثة. Then we have الرابعة, fourth, and then الخامسة, fifth. Same as what we've done before, you just add a ta marbuta at the end for these 4. Okay, but the الأول becomes أولى, you add a ألف مقصورة. So the signs, if you like, for feminine, there are many. Ta marbuta is one of them, and alif maqsura is also one of them. So remember that alif maqsura, generally speaking, or a lot of times, it's a sign of something being feminine. Not always, but many times. Okay, alif maqsura. So ula. Okay. Yeah, that's it. That's pretty straightforward. Just memorize those words, inshallah. Then we have, when it comes to verbs, and remember last time we talked about a verb's subject, fa'il. We talked about that at length, okay? And I've got a little exercise for you on WooClap that I want you to do, which is I want you to specify and write the verb's subject fa'il in the following sentences. So I'm going to show you a whole group of sentences, and I want you to show me or to write for me what the fa'il is in those sentences, okay? And that would suffice in order to explain to you I want to teach you today. Once we do that, inshallah, whatever I'm going to teach you today will stick more, inshallah. Okay? So let's do that on WooClap. Okay? So the first one, متى يذهب خالد إلى المدرسة؟ متى يذهب خالد إلى المدرسة؟ I want you to write the fa'il, the verb's subject. In other words, the noun that did the verb. Okay? Just don't woo clap, everyone. Okay, so this one seems to be pretty straightforward, inshallah. متى يذهب خالد إلى المدرسة؟ Still more than half of you didn't answer. Is everyone on woo clap? Please make sure you're on woo clap. Okay, so yeah, so the correct answer is Khalid. 86% of you got it right. I mean, actually all of you got it right. Just some of you typed it in English as well. Okay, so there you go. Okay, next word. Are you ready for it? يذهب الساعة السابعة. So obviously متى يذهب خالد للمدرسة, the answer being يذهب الساعة السابعة. What's the verb's subject in this sentence? Grammatically speaking, not semantically, grammatically speaking, in terms of grammar. Okay, it's a big difference. Where to type? You type in WooClap. I've posted the link here on Zoom. Maybe somebody can repost it. There you go. يذهب الساعة السابعة. Still quite a few people missing on WooClap, but we'll do what we have now. These are your answers. Some of you wrote ساعة, some of you wrote هو, someone wrote يا, someone wrote الساعة السابعة, يا in the يذهب. Okay. طيب. These are some of the answers that we have. Yeah, these are some of the answers that we have. Okay, let's do a quick word cloud. So as you can see, most of you seem to have said الساعة. Now, that's incorrect. That's incorrect. The correct answer is هو. The correct answer is هو. And هو, we say here, it's a pronoun that is hidden. It's not mentioned. And that's why most of you in the exam, or generally speaking, non-native Arab speakers, they always tend to pronounce huwa. So I've written it the way it should be written in, proper Arabic. An answer to the question متى يذهب خالد إلى المسجد in proper Arabic would have been يذهب الساعة السابعة. It wouldn't be هو يذهب الساعة السابعة. I guarantee you, if you say هو يذهب الساعة السابعة, the person you're talking to will automatically know that you're a beginner in Arabic. Because there's a statement that says لولا التقدير لفهم النحو الحمير. They say that if it wasn't for the implicit things that are hidden and not mentioned when it comes to grammar and speaking Arabic, they said a donkey would have understood Arabic grammar. Yeah, a bit harsh statement, but that's لولا التقدير لفهم النحو الحمير, they say. If it wasn't for تقدير. تقدير basically is when something is implicit, it's there and it's not mentioned, but it's there. That is a very big portion of grammar. So huwa, it's there, but we don't pronounce it just the same way Arabs don't pronounce the word is. In English you say Muhammad is at home. In Arabic لا. Muhammad is tall, Khalid is smart, Abdurrahman is lazy. This is, we don't mention it in Arabic. We say Khalidun ذكي, Abdurrahman كسلان. خلاص. Why? Because it's obvious. Same thing with the huwa. The huwa is obvious. Now, having said that, one might argue, well, how am I going to differentiate between the huwa and the hiya and the anta and the anti and all these different pronouns when there are 12 different pronouns that all of them they could be the subject? Then the answer to that is that yes, for some of them the pronoun is suffixed onto the verb. It's obvious. We'll come to that later. But for those pronouns that are not mentioned, then there are signs. This ya over here, the prefix, is not a pronoun in of itself. It's just a sign. It's something there to differentiate between yadhab and tadhab, so you don't get confused. When you say adhab, adhab is there to differentiate between adhab and tadhab and nadhab and so on and so forth. But they themselves grammatically are not considered to be the pronouns. The pronouns, they say it's hidden, huwa. They say والفاعل ضمير مستتر. It's a pronoun that is hidden. تقديره هو. Okay? Measured or known to be huwa, or understood to be huwa. Okay? And they say mustatir wujuban. It has to be hidden. In Arabic they say mustatir wujuban. It has to be hidden. I.e. grammatically, if you say huwa yadhabu as-sa'a, la huwa is okay. Anta and anti is wujuban. Huwa is jawazan. Huwa you can say it or you can, and here is fine. But anta, for example, it has to be hidden. Now, I think I gave away a lot of the answers based on the coming questions. But this is the next question. أقرأ القرآن. The statement أقرأ القرآن. What's the فاعل? Okay. Okay, mashallah. All of you got it correct for the most part. One person did say no. Not the Ali Hamza. No. Ana. Why is it not mentioned? It's hidden. Mandatory. If you say ana aqra, that's wrong. Unless you want to emphasize. That's a different story. But ana aqra al-Quran is grammatically incorrect. Grammatically, there's something wrong with that. Aqra'u suffices. طيب, next one. ماذا تفعل بعد الصلاة؟ ماذا تفعل بعد الصلاة? Definitely, knowing the verb, subject or the fa'il in these sentences is extremely important. Because you'll know who or what is being talked about. If you don't know, with a degree of certainty and fluency, who or what the fa'il is, you'll be lost in understanding that sentence. ماذا تفعل بعد الصلاة? Who is the person that is doing something after salah? Who's being asked? We have anta, we have hiya. Okay. أحسنت. Now, this anta is correct. ماذا تفعل بعد الصلاة? Hiya can also be correct. Hiya would be correct if it was part of a context where we were talking about someone, some female. Okay? So for example, maybe I was asking you some questions about your sister or your mother or whatever. صح? And then I ask, within the context of that conversation, I say ماذا تفعل بعد الصلاة, then it would be here. But in this particular situation where it's not part of a context, like the previous one, متى يذهب خالد إلى المدرسة, or I can't remember what the question was, and يذهب الساعة السابعة, that's part of one conversation. But here, لا, there wasn't a female that was mentioned before this. In that kind of situation, in that kind of context, it has to be new, it has to be an anta. Okay? So ماذا تفعل, generally speaking, it means anta. When would it mean here? It would mean here if we were talking about a third person female. Okay? So anta would be correct. But still, I would consider both of them to be correct. Because of the ambiguity. هل تنام فاطمة بعد الصلاة؟ هل تنام فاطمة بعد الصلاة? What's the فاعل here? The subject, the verb subject. هل تنام فاطمة بعد الصلاة؟ Okay, so we have Fatima, we have Anti, I suppose. Yeah, Anti. In this kind of situation, the subject has been explicitly mentioned, so it's not going to be Anti or Anta, or I mean, I wouldn't even expect Anta or Anti. I would have maybe expected if you said Hiya. Okay, but I don't know where you got Anti or Anta from. Those two are definitely wrong. Okay. هل تنام فاطمة؟ فاطمة too, I said with the ضمة. هل تنام فاطمة؟ Fatima is the subject here. See how important it is knowing the subject of the verb? Okay, what a different sentence. Do you sleep Fatima after Salah? What does that even mean? Do you sleep Fatima? I don't even know what that means. Okay, تنام is a fi'l that is لازم, doesn't have an object. It can't even mean do you put Fatima to sleep. Okay? Can't even mean that, because in Arabic تنام is a fi'l لازم, it doesn't have an object. Okay? So هل تنام فاطمة بعد الصلاة? Fatima is the subject. طيب. Next one. لا تنام بعد الصلاة. As an answer to the previous question. Huh? So someone just asked هل تنام فاطمة بعد الصلاة? The answer to that question is لا تنام بعد الصلاة. What is the فاعل? Okay, we have here and we have anti. Okay, and we have tanam. Okay, how can tanam be the verb subject when tanam is the verb itself? Doesn't make sense. Tanam can definitely not be right. Okay, definitely wrong, tanam. Anti or anta, whichever one of the two it is, it's wrong. It's wrong. It can't be anta. You know, I said to you, it's an answer to the previous question. The previous question was, does Fatima sleep after Salah? Answer, لا تنام بعد الصلاة. No, she does not sleep after Salah. So it means here, it's she. If it's anta, then that would mean no, لا تنام بعد الصلاة, don't sleep after Salah, you. But you're not addressing the person, you're answering their question about Fatima. Do you see the difference? واضح? طيب, last one. أين تصلين الفجر؟ أين تصلين الفجر؟ I think it was the last one. أين تصلين الفجر؟ Okay, we have anti, hunna and hum. Those are the two answers that we have. Both of them are wrong. Okay, both of them are wrong. Hunna and hum, definitely not hunna and hum. No, seems like maybe you're new to today's lesson, or you haven't attended last lesson. We talked about tusallina, anti. Okay, anti, that's what it is. But we did mention something last time we've done this. We said that, and we'll cover that again right now, we'll talk about it. I hope that was the last question, yes? So let's explain that now. Why is anti wrong? Okay, let's explain that now. Last time, when we mentioned the verb subject, to quickly recap, we talked about the personal pronouns as verb subjects. So we talked about the 5 personal pronouns, and how many personal pronouns as verb subjects have we come across so far? We said none. That was before we learned about tusallina and the likes. We said that rather we have signs. The sign for ana is the prefix of hamza. The sign for anta is a prefix of ta. The sign of huwa is a prefix of ya. And the sign of hiya is a prefix of ta. So that's what we've done. We've done that in today's vocab as well. So when you have aqra al-Quran, we say the verb subject is ana. We don't say the verb subject is the hamza. La, that's just a sign. It's not the actual verb subject. We've done that last time. But then we also mentioned the first of its like, which is when a verb subject is stated as an explicit pronoun. Okay, which is ya al-mukhatabah. We've done that last time. Which is a prefix of ta, that's just a sign. Okay, but the suffix of ya and nun, it's a pronoun. That itself is a pronoun, the ya and the nun. Tusallina, the ya and the nun, the ya in particular, sorry, not the nun, forget the nun, the ya in particular is a pronoun. It's called ya al-mukhatabah, the ya of the female second person, the ya of the woman who's being addressed. That's what it means, literally speaking, i.e. anti. So this ya al-mukhatabah, I know I'm getting a bit too technical here for grammar, but that ya al-mukhatabah in grammar, they say it is the fa'il, is the verb subject. Nevertheless, if you say anti or you say the ya al-mukhatabah, it doesn't make a big difference. That might be too technical at this stage. But the important thing is that you know that it's a female that is being addressed. This is a major mistake. Okay, this I can accept as an answer. Anti, fine. Okay, that's technical. But to say ماذا or هل تصلين, what's the question? أين تصلين الفجر means هن or hum. La, that's a big problem. Now you're mixing up between tusalluna, which is whom. Okay? It's a big problem. And tusallayna, which is hunna. Now, you might say, Ustad, what's the difference? Well, there's a difference. Okay? And it's not even tusallayna, it's, what's it called? Yusallayna. So, there is a difference. Okay, we'll get to that later. Okay? The prefix of ta, just so that you know. You see the prefix of ta. The prefix of ta, and I said to you many times, these are signs, they help. Ta is always for the second person. So anta has a ta in front. And obviously this is an exception to the rule. And ya al-mukhatab has a ta in front as well. Same thing goes for all of the other plurals. Okay, the dual and the plural for female and male is going to have a ta in front. Of course, once I show you the bigger picture, it will make sense. So let's just ignore that for now. على أي حال, tusallina does not mean hum or hunna. It's not plural. It means you, female. Finally, talking about negation and prohibition. Two different things that are very similar, but you have to know the difference. Negation is when you negate something, as in you deny or say something like, no, it didn't happen. You affirm or you can negate. Sah? So the negation, for both of them we use la to start with. For both of them we use la. Okay? But there are two la's in the Arabic language. You have la an-nahiya and la an-nafiya. So the la of negation and the la of prohibition. Okay, so the negation is called la, if you want me to write it down for you, it's called la an-nahiya. Okay, here it is actually. I was covering it here. Before I covered the la an-nahiya, remember when we talked about verb types, we said we have fi'l madhi, fi'l mudari, fi'l amr. Fi'l amr being the imperative. We'll talk about fi'l amr, the imperative, later. But today we're covering the negative imperative, i.e. you can tell someone to do something, you can command him or you can prohibit him. Here we're talking about the prohibition. La ta'kul, don't eat. Remember, that's a prohibition. So the negative imperative called la an-nahiya, example of that being in the book, in the dialogue, az-zawja, when she said la ta'kul, ijlis. Then la an-nahiya, how do you differentiate between la an-nahiya and la an-nafiya? Well, la an-nahiya, when you're telling someone not to do something, it's number one, always in the present tense. And it's followed only by second person. because imperative can only be directed to a second person. You can only command someone that you're speaking to. You can't command someone, a third person, and you can't command yourself. So linguistically speaking, when it comes to Arabic, the whole fi'l amr, that whole type of verb, it's only for the second person. Alright? And finally, it's majzoom. What do you mean by majzoom? It's got a sukoon at the end. It's got so la ta'kul. You don't say la ta'kulu. Okay? So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you this question on WooClap. Imagine you are invited somewhere. Okay? You're invited to a meal, and suddenly the host who invited you says to you, لا تأكلوا شيئا. What would you do? Okay? So I repeat. You're invited to a meal, and suddenly the host says to you, لا تأكلوا شيئا. لا تأكلوا شيئا يا محمد. That's what he says to you. What would you do? Okay, so one person said eat more. The other one said not eat anything. The contrast can't be clearer. لماذا? Okay, you would ask him لماذا. Okay, so one person would eat more. Another one wouldn't eat anything. One would say, okay, I suppose they wouldn't eat more. I mean, that one is ambiguous. Would you eat more or not eat more? I don't know. You would just say, okay. Another person would say لماذا. Okay? Alright. The right answer is to eat more. Okay? It's to eat more. Why? Why? This is now the importance of grammar. Okay, if you pay attention, I said you're invited to a meal, and suddenly the host says to you, لا تأكلوا شيئا يا محمد. لا تأكلوا شيئا يا محمد. Is this a prohibition or a negation? That's what it comes down to. Okay? Huh? No point asking you. Just, is this a prohibition or negation? لا تأكلوا شيئا. This is a negation, not a prohibition. So now it might make more sense to you what I mean by negation and prohibition. Negation as in, he is negating, he's saying that you're not eating anything, Muhammad. What's wrong with you? I invited you, eat more. لا تأكلوا with the dhamma. Whereas if they put a sukoon at the end, they didn't put a dhamma. If the person said لا تأكل شيئا, لا تأكل شيئا, then that would mean don't eat anything. Just like the wife said to her husband. What did she say to him? She said to him, لا تأكل, لا تأكل, don't eat, don't eat. So do you see the difference between telling someone not to do something and informing someone that he's not doing something? Big difference. Big difference. So لا تأكل شيئا is majorly different from لا تأكلوا شيئا. Some of those intricate differences when it comes to grammar that make a difference. They make a difference in real life. Because honestly, I can imagine one of you that happening to them, where the host says to them, لا تأكلوا شيئا, and then they hold back and they stop eating and they feel really, really embarrassed, thinking to themselves, what is wrong with this guy? He invited me to his house. When I start eating, he tells me not to eat. He just called me to his house to make fun. Now, if that host doesn't notice that you stopped eating and he doesn't see your facial expression, you might actually go home cursing him and talking bad about him, like saying, you can't believe what such and such did to me. He embarrassed me so much. He invited me to his house just to say to me, don't eat anything. Okay? When in essence, what he was saying to you is, hey, you're not eating anything. What's wrong with you? Eat more. So I commend the person who answered with eat more. I hope that was an answer based on knowledge and not an answer based on if you like just eat more as in, you know, just be stubborn or something. طيب. So that's the difference between negation and prohibition. So negation, لا الناهية, it happens before nouns or verbs. It's not nahiya, sorry, النافية. This one's called النافية. Even I get confused sometimes, sorry. Nafi, min al-nafi, which is to negate. Just like as in La ilaha illallah, there's negation. There's no God worthy of worship except Allah. It's not prohibition. You're not prohibiting anyone. You're negating it. La an-nafi it's called. So it comes before verbs or nouns. So La ilaha illallah, La ilaha is before the noun. And it can also come before verbs to negate the action from taking place. Or that it didn't take place. And for that reason it could be marfu', it can have a dhamma or it can have a fatha. Both. Whereas the prohibition, La an-nahiya, is completely different. Number one, it can only come before verbs, it can't come before nouns because it's there to prohibit an action from happening, telling someone not to do something. How do you prohibit a noun? You can't prohibit by using a noun. You have to prohibit the action from occurring. Okay? You'll find a lot of those obviously in the Quran when it comes to things that are haram. لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى. Okay? And so on and so forth. And that one is always majzoom, as in is always going to have a sukoon. Or and sukoon is a simplification, or anything else that denotes al-jazm, which we're going to have to talk about another time. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد. I was going to do the Quizlet thingy competition, but we ran out of time. Teachers are waiting for us in the workshops, so we're gonna suffice with that inshallah. Unless there are any questions, we'll stop there. في سؤال؟ Any questions? طيب لا. Okay, أحسنت. What is this one? The لا. Is that لا نافي or ناهية? Who can tell us? I said any questions? Somebody answered with لا. Is that لا going to be لا نافية or لا ناهية? Is it the لا of negation or the لا of prohibition? Which لا is it? Last question before we leave. النافية نعم negation. أحسنتم. Yes, that's the law of negation. طيب بارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. لا تتأخروا. Don't be late. لا تتأخروا. Don't be late. That's لا ناهية, the law of prohibition. السلام عليكم.